And then I'll turn it over to you, Mr. Fine, in just a moment.
Okay.
Okay, it looks like we are live. It is now your meeting, Mr. Fine. Let me know if you need anything.
I'd like to start the Charter Township of White Lake Planning Commission for June 4th, 2020 at 7 p.m. I'd like to start with a call to order and a roll call. We have a roll call.
Rhonda?
Rhonda has to, Rhonda, unmute.
There
Unmute.
you go. I'm sorry. Anthony Noble. Debbie DeHart.
Here.
Joe Seward.
Here.
Mark Fine.
Here.
Steve Anderson.
Here.
Mary Carlock.
Here.
Peter Maher.
Here.
Scott Ruggles. And Rhonda Grubb here.
Thank you. Let's do the Pledge of Allegiance. I pledge allegiance
To the flag.
United States of America.
America.
One nation.
I'm sorry, let me start over because I did not see the flag. I apologize. Okay, I pledge allegiance
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, to the republic which stands
one
one nation under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Okay, number 3, approval of the agenda.
I move to approve the agenda as reconfigured.
Okay, do I have,
And just for record, that would be moving 8A to 6A, which is public hearing, which it was noticed and published for.
thank you.
I'll support that.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Thank you. Number 4, approval of the minutes from May 7th, 2020. Everybody can look at that.
Motion to approve the minutes.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Been approved. Thank you. Okay. Now I have a call to the public, and this is for items that are not on the agenda. So we're not talking about the car wash yet, but is there anybody there that has something to say? If you do, and you're on the phone, you can hit *9 to raise your hand. And then Ken, if you could let us know.
So again, for the telephone callers, if you press *9 on your keypad, we will be alerted that you would like to speak.
Give you a couple seconds here.
As I'm going to scroll through our list. I currently see no hands raised. Mr. Fine?
Okay, call to the public. I'm gonna. What was that? I can't hear. I'm going to close the call of the public at 7:03, and let's go to the public hearing. So, public hearing A, the White Lake Car Wash. The property described as parcel number 12-23-202-006, located on the south side of Highland Road, just west of Fisk Road, consisting of approximately 4.91 acres. The request is for rezoning from LB local business and R1-C single family residential to GB general business or any other appropriate district. The applicant is Nowak and Frost Engineers. So at this point, does the applicant, would the applicant like to speak?
Hi, yes, I'm Brad Brooks.
Yeah, Brad, just introduce yourself and give us your information.
Absolutely. Hi, my name is Brad Burkle from Nowak and Frost Engineers. We're here representing Danny York, who's also on the call. We're the civil engineers for the project, representing Danny York and Caliber Car Wash. So I'd turn it over to him if he wants to give any opening remarks.
Yeah, good evening, everybody. Appreciate the time. My partner and I are the owners of Caliber Car Wash, a fairly new concept that's growing pretty rapidly. We started looking around Detroit last year because we saw a need for this product. So we drove the White Lake area, loved it, noticed that you guys didn't have a car wash like ours kind of anywhere in sight. And so that's what drew us to the area. Just to give you a little bit of heads up on kind of the structure and the type of car wash it is. It is a tunnel car wash that's about 100 to 120 feet long. It is the attendants do not touch your car. The machines do all the work. You pull around, and then there's 20 to 25 free vacuums. We also offer free cloth towels, free air fresheners, free degreaser, glass cleaner, and high pressure air to blow out the crevices and stuff on your dashboard.
We're getting some feedback, so I think, okay, go ahead.
All right, sorry about that. So we employ usually any site employs anywhere from I'd say at the low end 12 people, at the high end about 18 people. Our average wage is somewhere north of about $15 an hour. We do offer an hourly wage in addition to a commission to the employees who sell monthly memberships. That's kind of our model is to sell monthly memberships. So it's pretty good opportunity in the working class seem to like our pay structure, and it seems to outpace a lot of their other options. So we're real happy about that. I'll kind of tell you on, we love the business, but since the virus has hit, we've opened three new locations. We've hired a marketing director. We've hired at those 3 new locations. We've staffed those up, so that was about 45 hires. We've promoted 4 managers in that time period. We really haven't missed a beat. Paid all of our bills, and we're really proud of that. With seeing so many people out of work and a lot of people dealing with some pain right now, we're really proud to be hiring and thriving. So just wanted to throw that in there. From an environmental standpoint, that always comes up in these meetings. What's the impact on the environment? Typically, if you were to wash your car at your house, you're going to use anywhere from 100 to 150 gallons of water. We've got it dialed down to using between 20 and 30. We have an oil water separator. We want to run the water through an ozone filter, and we use it 3 times. And then it's discharged into sanitary sewer. So there's no sort of like storm runoff or anything. It's kind of a self-contained system that recycles as much water as possible and then puts it into the sewer. So it is as of right now, as much technology that exists to make it environmentally friendly. That's what we use. All the soaps and chemicals are biodegradable. So very little impact to the environment. And that's kind of the basics. If anybody has any questions, feel free.
Okay, so I'm going to open it up to the board if there's any questions from the board.
How many gallons did you say in a typical day would go into the sewer system?
That obviously depends on volume, but I'd say it's somewhere in the neighborhood of 4,000 to 6,000.
Can I ask a question, Mark?
Yes, please.
So explain to me what part of the parcel is currently zoned residential and which one's general business or local business?
So I can answer that. And that's, so can you guys hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So, I can get into, Greg Elliott is supposed to be on. I don't know if he's one of these numbers or not. If he is, maybe he could raise his hand so that Ken can see him. And
sorry, Sean, I'm admitting Greg Elliott right now.
Okay. But to answer that question while Greg is coming in, this is a pretty good sized property as far as the depth. It's about 340, 350 wide by about 660, 670 deep. That's about, so if you go to the last page in the packet, you'll see the site plan layout. So about half the property is currently zoned local business, and about half of it is, for whatever reason, zoned R1C. There aren't a ton of split zone properties in the township. We don't like split zone properties. We really estimate the zoning. I mean, there's no survey of this. They're estimating based on a map that these are the dimensions. So I don't think anyone can tell you exactly what the dimensions, it's shown roughly where, if you look at that map, or that plot plan, where the line is estimated to be. It's somewhere around the midway point, but that's part of the reason we don't like it. And so the area closer to M59 is zoned local business currently. A car wash is a special land use in the general business district, so it needs to be rezoned. We would never support single family residential behind, uses like this. The master plan doesn't support residential there at all. It supports business. So our recommendation, and Greg will get into the nuts and bolts of it, but our recommendation is the whole thing be rezoned general business. And you can see a parcel A and a parcel B laid out here, and then a parcel C, which just provides about 2.5 acres for a future use. Now, that being said, obviously at the south end of this property, there exist quite a few single family homes. So heavy buffering will be needed. And, my thought is in the future, if there's more of a quiet use, an office building of some sort that goes back onto that 2.4 acres, it kind of breaks that property up a little bit and separates it from M59. And these uses would probably be a pretty decent use. But, again, heavy buffering would be needed. And there's certainly plenty of room to achieve that, as is the case with the other uses you see, that back up to this neighborhood along M59. This is definitely not the first business that would back up to these neighbors or this neighborhood. But obviously there are some that are on this call. There are some that have emailed, and, that is a big concern of theirs. So, but I don't know if you guys want to hear from Greg, but, he has a detailed report that obviously needs to be gone over. So whenever you're ready for him, he appears to be ready.
Okay, Greg, if you're ready. Hello. Yes, we'd like to hear your report.
Okay, I will unmute myself. So as Sean probably mentioned, this is a 4.91 acre site. Request, as I understood it, was from local business to general business. I get now that there's a piece that I wasn't able to perceive that is zoned in part residentially at the south part of the site. Would certainly be my recommendation that the same zoning be applied to the entirety of the site for reasons that we'll get into in the report. The land to the west of the site looks like it's currently zoned residentially. To the east, there's a dance studio property. I think that's in the LB district, local business district right now, but then one parcel over is a general business parcel, which is Bell Tire, I think. And then the Fisk Corner Shopping Plaza, which is general business property as well, as across the street, across Highland Road. So if you look at the second page of the report, you see the surrounding zonings and then what the current master plan would indicate for each of those properties. For the most part, other than the land to the south, which is residential, the indication would be for planned business use or planned business type use on all the properties, this property and all the properties surrounding it. And so then section 2 of the report is the factors that you're required to consider in looking at a rezoning request. Again, this is only a rezoning request, so you're considering it for all the potential uses that might be available in the general business district. First factor to consider is consistency with the master plan. As I mentioned, and as the chart shows, planned business is the intended primary development tool for the area here along Highland Road. And there's one of the reasons for that is unified site planning and access management. Well, the general business district itself doesn't accomplish that in the same way that the planned business district would. That is typically handled for smaller parcels like this through site plan review. This parcel isn't big enough it's certainly big enough as a module of land for general business district zoning, It is not big enough for the planned business district treatment. And so, in our view, this is consistent with the master plan designation for the reason that all the uses allowed in the general business district are the same ones that would be appropriate under the planned business district scenario. The next is compatibility with the site's physical and geological, hydrological, environmental makeup. Paraphrasing. As I say, the site is a reasonable module of land for commercial development. Third standard is evidence that the applicant cannot receive a reasonable return on investment through developing the property for one of the uses permitted under the current zoning. We haven't received any evidence of that, but we've all taken notice in the past of the fact that there is a demand for the type of uses that are allowed in general business district along Highland Road. And you can see evidence of that in the uses that surround this property across the street and most particularly to the east where that district prevails. Fourth, the compatibility of the potential allowed uses with surrounding uses. I think Sean already mentioned this. There is residential use to the south. That is a potential point of incompatibility. However, you certainly would not want residential use fronting on Highland Road, and so it is compatible with the site's character and having frontage on Highland Road. And so the way to address that is at the time of site plan review through appropriate screening to make sure that the residential uses are protected from whichever use would be allowed on this property. I think I mentioned it elsewhere in the report, but I'll mention at this point also that as far as a car wash, which I think is the intended use, that's a special land use in the general business district zone. And so you have additional control in terms of putting conditions on that use if that were to be pursued as the intended end use for this property. The fifth standard is capacity of the township's utilities. Our understanding is that it's in the water and sewer service area. Township engineer will discuss that. F, I'm losing track of numbers, so I'm going to go to letters. F is the compatibility of the street system to safely accommodate the expected traffic. A rezoning traffic study would be required if it's either inconsistent with the master plan or involves other than residential downzoning. So it is an upzoning. However, it's been your custom in the past, given the location on Highland Road, to waive the traffic study standard, and that would probably be reasonable in this case as well. G, the demand for types of uses permitted in the district in relation to the amount of land that's currently available. It would be our observation that there has been a continual demand for general business use type uses in and along Highland Road, and so we would think that would apply to this property as well. H, that the boundaries of the requested zoning district are reasonable in relation to its surroundings. Again, it is a reasonable module of land for this type of zoning. It's contiguous to other land that's zoned general business across Highland Road. It is contiguous to other commercial uses on the south side. And as I mentioned, the Bell Tire site is one parcel removed to the east. So that is another general business district zone. The lot is quite deep in relation to its width, and so that affords the opportunity for the buffering that's needed to protect the residential uses. I, that the district is considered to be more appropriate from the township's perspective than another zoning district. This is the appropriate district to allow for the broadest range of uses, commercial uses for this size parcel. And so I would feel like that standard is met as well. J, that if the request is for a specific use, that rezoning is the appropriate way rather than amending the list of permitted uses. Rezoning would be the appropriate way to allow for this parcel to be used as a car wash. And as I say, a car wash will end up being a special land use in the general business district. The K, that the requested rezoning will not create a spot zone. In my opinion, it will not, for the reasons that I've already discussed, that it's contiguous with similarly zoned land across the street and with similarly land that is used in a similar fashion on the south side of the street. You may want to consider whether or not you would want to upzone the parcel where the dance studio is to general business district as well, because it will be left as a spot of local business between this parcel and Bell Tire if this property is rezoned. L, if the request has not been previously submitted, it's my understanding it has not been previously made. M, this is not a request for conditional rezoning, so that does not apply. And finally, any other factors that you would deem appropriate or the township board would deem appropriate. So we'd be happy to provide you with any other information that you felt like you needed to make a decision. Our recommendation is for approval of general business district zoning for the entirety of the parcel. We cite 4 reasons for making that recommendation. One, that the requested general business district zoning district is consistent with uses deemed appropriate for a planned business district area. 2, that rezoning the parcel to HB is compatible with, that's not my job, with the character of the surrounding area. 3, the intended uses will be adequately served by the site's location on Highland Road. And 4, that the depth of the lot allows for adequate buffering for the residential properties to the south. I'd be happy to answer any questions that you might have.
Okay, anybody from the board, if you have any questions for Greg?
Greg, you stated you thought it afforded adequate buffering. How much buffering? Where would the building stop? How many feet would it be between the building and the next residential property?
Well, I have not seen their proposed site plan, and really you shouldn't consider a proposed site plan at this point. As I say, you're considering the entire parcel as being open to all the potential uses that are allowed in general business. But yeah, there's certainly plenty of room for a deep landscaped buffer area, such as is provided for by the transition strip type options in your zoning ordinance on this piece. And I would suggest that 50 to 100 feet might be available down there on the south end. It's really a function of which approach they choose to take. There's different approaches available under your zoning ordinance to doing that. If only landscaping is used, that's one thing. If they do berming plus landscaping, that's another, or a physical barrier plus landscaping, that's another thing. So all those options would be available, and you'd look at that at the time of the site plan review and special land use approval request.
Okay.
Debbie, if I could really quick, they did give us a sketch with their application. We usually just ask for a rough idea, but to Greg's point, we don't get into the site plan details yet because they're not bound by any desire to do a certain project now. I mean, if this gets rezoned, it's not required to have a car wash.
Okay.
As a matter of fact, this has been discussed. They have to go through additional processes like special land use approval in order to get a use like that approved. But on the layout they've shown, they're more than 300 feet at the closest point with a driveway to the property to the south. So, I mean, it's far beyond the most strict application of the ordinance. And so even at a future date, if there's another, that lot C they show at the back that's 2.4 acres, they could develop that and still have, a half acre of buffer across the back of the property. And, if you look at the properties next door, they similarly have probably a good, and Greg mentioned, 100 feet or so of open space or landscape buffering behind the homes that are to the south. And so there's absolutely an opportunity to more than adequately screen them. Even if, parcel C in the layout they show, I'm getting kind of ahead with discussing a site plan, but they've got a huge amount of depth in order to adequately screen the properties to the south.
John, would it be appropriate just to show it? Not that they're going to have that, just so she can see. I can share my screen.
Yeah, if you want to show your screen, go for it.
Host disabled participants screen sharing. Okay, I need the host to let me share.
Yep, you're all set. Sorry, Mr. Fine, you're all set.
And again, just so everybody who's joining in, who may not be accustomed to this process, this is just an exhibit of their application. They're in no way approved to build this. They're in no way married to this proposal. It's a rough sketch that we asked them to give us so we have some idea. But as you can see, the whole southerly half of the property is just wide open at this point. But the road that comes in is stubbed off to, 2.4 acres that they call parcel C in this layout. So there's lots of room out here. And, again, any request to the Planning Commission for site plan approval, if this is successful through rezoning, the applicant knows, and that was one of the things that I talked to Danny about, was that, buffering of the neighbors to the south would be, paramount. And, he is aware of that. And I think that's why he's not even showing anything back here at this point.
So Mark, can I ask a question why that's up?
Yes, please.
First, a comment. The packet that I received doesn't have this drawing, and it's the one that was sent to me. But Sean, is parcel C the part that's the residential?
Roughly. It's approximately. Like I had mentioned early on, it is, we don't have surveyed boundaries of kind of the zoning line, which is kind of one of the problems with split zoning, I guess. It's sort of up to some interpretation, but this is where their engineer estimates the line to be between residential, and you can kind of see the line right there that Mark shows. And this is in the packet that's on the website if you guys want to go to that. This exhibit's at the very last page of the packet that is up on the website. So yeah.
So Sean, just for clarification, when we were talking about the 300 feet, this represents the time frame from that entrance into the that road and the back end of the lot. Is that what you're talking about when you said 300 feet?
Yeah, so where you see that road that comes in terminate, right where the arrow is, where Mark's got the arrow.
Right.
From that point down to the bottom of the property, I would estimate to be roughly 300 feet.
Okay, gotcha.
I mean, give or take.
Right. No. I'm just looking at it from the standpoint of that's almost half the parcel. So the development and everything else would be up here.
Right, but
next to parcel A, to the right of parcel A is where the development of the car wash, and then the back end of parcel C is the 300 feet before it even comes in close to any of the residential area.
Yeah, I don't know how they plan to develop this, but as it's shown, they appear to be able to come up with 3 general business, properties that would be adequate in the general business district. So, that all being said, you need an acre. They've got, more than an acre on all 3 of these properties as kind of shown on a survey here. So, if they're only interested in doing parcel B, and again, I'm talking about site plan specifics, but just so everyone is clear, we're not approving any site plan. We're not considering any site plan, but this is helpful to use for discussion purposes. So if they build a car wash on B someday down the road here, then they could potentially come back and get a site plan approval for something on parcel A. And then they could come back and get potential site plan approval for something on parcel C with this configuration. However, if the car wash was to go ahead, it would probably make sense for them just to do all the buffering at the south side of C, just so it's done. You know, it would leave a huge open kind of green belt. But our thought would be through this process is to just get everything established now, even if there is no end user, so it's set up, so there's no disruption to the neighbors. You know, and again, this is presuming it all goes forward. No disruption to the neighbors more than one time. So existing vegetation can be left, additional vegetation, berming, other screening, you know, decorative fencing, things like that can be all, like we've done in all the other developments all over the township that are adjacent to residential, can all be done in some fashion or form at the bottom of C as it's shown here. You know, and then it kind of really splits off the rest of that usable property from that buffer going north. I don't know if that's helpful.
No, that was helpful. I have a question for if Mr. Fine, if I can ask Mr. York a question. Understanding that all we're doing is doing the change for the appropriate land use, but just since you did mention that you had like three other locations that you just did, where are those other locations and what cities or townships?
Well, the ones that we have open right now are all in the southeast.
All in the, pardon, say that again?
They're all in the southeast of the United States.
Oh, so they're out of the state of Michigan.
Yeah, correct. The other properties that I mentioned in the Detroit metro are other properties that we're pursuing that are kind of similar stage as this one.
Okay.
Going through rezoning or recently contracted, that kind of stuff.
Is there any other car washes that are doing the things that you're doing right now that are in the Michigan area?
You know, there is a good one that I think was just built on Van Dyke called Greenway Car Wash, might be, I think is what it's called. That would, I'd say, be the best example of what we're doing. I haven't been there, but I know that it was built and I've seen some pictures of it and it looked like a good car wash. And I'd say that that's probably the closest.
Danny, I think when you and I spoke before, and Steve, a closer example, and I don't begin to know all the specifics about some of these washes, but behind the Culvers off of Wixom Road, there's a car wash that I think is somewhat similar to this kind of, at least in the layout. It's brand new. It does the things that Danny mentioned. You go to a kiosk and you pay at a kiosk, and you can have memberships, and then nobody touches your car. It goes through a tunnel, and then there's this kind of cleaning station that's between like the back of Culver's and the actual tunnel for the car wash. I've been through that one time, and it, to me, is similar to what Danny's described to me and what I've seen in car washes like that. So that's a little closer to us in White Lake than the Van Dyke location would be. So I would say that would be a good local example, you know, in my mind, of what he's looking at bringing to this site.
Yeah, that's accurate.
So just one quick question, Sean. So I completely understand this. This site is one Sidwell, one parcel identification number with split zoning on it currently.
That is correct. Yes. It's not common, but we do have a handful of these other properties that are like this around the township.
Okay.
Okay. Any more questions? Okay. At this point, we've got 2 letters from the public. I'd like to enter them in and read them. So let me pull those up.
Are we opening up the public hearing, or are we just reading the letters?
I was just going to read the letters at this point and then open up the public hearing after I read the letters.
Okay. Yeah, that's fine.
I wonder if I should share it too while I can share it while I'm reading it. Would that be appropriate? I think so. Let's see. So you guys can see what I'm reading. Okay. So This is from Jenny McBurney. The title is Rezoning of Parcels 12-23-202-006. It's White Lake Township, 7525 Highland Road, White Lake, Michigan, 48383, yes, 2900, White Lake Car Wash. Dear Sir or Madam, please be advised that we reside at 9212 Steep Hollow Drive, White Lake, Michigan, the Steep Hollow property. We are in receipt of notification from the township regarding the construction of the White Lake Car Wash on property which abuts to Steep Hollow property. This correspondence will serve as our objection and opposition to the rezoning being sought, in that it involves changing residential property to a commercial use. We purchased the Steep Hollow property based upon existing zoning, knowing we were somewhat close to a commercial zoning, but appreciating that there was a buffer of existing residential property. The applicant currently owns 2 parcels on which they wish to construct the White Lake Car Wash. One of these parcels is zoned as residential. The other was originally in the 2004 master plan as planned business. Given the size of the second parcel, the applicant is now requesting the parcel be turned into general business. As such, the 2 parcels in question currently are zoned for 2 different purposes. We object to the applicant being able to purchase residential property for that purpose of having it rezoned as commercial property. When White Lake Township adopted its master plan, it was to allow for harmonious development and use of the White Lake Township. To allow residential property to be rezoned as commercial use would fly in the face of that master plan. Further, the actual proposed use of a car wash would generate a significant amount of traffic as well as noise and odors, and would absolutely not be welcome addition to the area. There are acres of other property that are zoned to allow for the intended use sought by the applicant. To be quite honest, the applicant should buy one of those parcels instead of trying to change existing zoning and negatively impacting abutting property owners. Sincerely, Jennifer McBurney and Matthew Force. And then at the bottom, they show their concerns: impact of water use. At this time, we are under restricted water use due to the upgrade rehab of the Hillview Well House. Does the potential of this future business have any impact on the need for the upgrade? Will this business be contributing any money to the township for that upgrade? How many gallons of water per day do they project they will be using? Will their usage be calculated or billed differently than if there were to be a residential structure there? What traffic study was used as the basis that one of this purpose wasn't necessary, and buffer amount? So I enter that into the record. And then,
Hey, Mark, when you're done, before you open the public hearing, would you mind if I jump in and just clarify a couple things?
sure. So I'll read the next letter and then is that okay?
Yeah, it's in just response to that letter, but I can wait if you want.
Yeah, well, no, if you want to go to that letter, I can wait. I can put that letter back up. Here, let me.
So I guess, we focus on the car wash because the applicant's just being honest and open about what he wants to do. We're not considering a car wash tonight, so a lot of the car wash discussion is really not even pertinent tonight. So focus on the zoning, focus on the fact that the request is consistent with the master plan, as the planning review has said, and we really can't get into the car wash details. Those are all valid questions. Those are all questions that are important to be asked and answered if this moves ahead and if they come back with a special land use request and a site plan for a car wash. They're not prepared to answer any of those questions tonight because we're not considering a site plan. So just so the public understands, no car wash is sought for approval tonight. It's just a car wash rezoning is what the title, it's what their application was for. And that may have been misleading, and perhaps we should have headed that off at the pass. And also, this is one parcel. This is one Sidwell number. It is confusing because there are 2 zoning classifications. This is a split zoning, but it is one parcel, 4.91, I believe is the number, 4.91 acre parcel that happens to have commercial zoning as well as residential zoning on it. So we're unifying the zoning with this request, or the applicant's request seeks to rezone it, and the township generally tries to unify the zoning and make it consistent with the master plan. So yes, this has been zoned this way for some time, but the master plan calls for planned business, which is actually more intense than what is being sought here. So this is He's not seeking the highest and most intense zoning classification, which would be PB or planned business, which is what the master plan calls for. He's seeking general business zoning, which is a step down from that, just so it kind of clears the record on that.
Thank you, Sean.
Mr. Chair, can I interject on that point as well? Going to the question of the residential property in the rear, which I obviously wasn't aware of when I wrote the report, but knowing that, I'd like to say that it really creates an untenable situation to have residential zone property in that location. It can't be accessed in an appropriate way for residential use. As the drawing you showed indicated, the only way you can access it is through a commercial property. I don't think anybody would argue that there should be residential use fronting on Highland Road. And so given that that is going to be a commercial use, and in fact is intended to be a car wash use, you're not gonna have desirable residential property access through that commercial area. And there really aren't any other options for accessing it at this point. And so that's why I say it makes sense to zone the entirety of the property for commercial use at this time.
Thank you, Greg. Okay, I'm going to read the next letter. Let me share that. Hard to see. Okay. Can everybody see the new one? Okay, good. So this pertains also to parcel 12-23-202-006 from Kenny Muma. And it says, to whom it may concern, the above parcel is currently being planned to be rezoned as a car wash. My residence is directly south of the proposed car wash, and we have concerns to be addressed to the Planning Commission at the June 4th public hearing. Number one, distance to residential properties. According to Special Use Ordinance 4.11, Section B, the business has to be at least 200 feet from the residential district. Will this be the case? That's B. C. As residential to south, we would like to keep as much green space as possible. We have a large wildlife population and want to keep as much as possible. Number two, type of car wash. A. Is the proposed car wash a do-it-yourself or an automated drive-through car wash? B. This then leads into the question of proposed hours of operation. 3. Impact on traffic. A. The Twin Lakes subdivision already has issues turning west out of the subdivision. B. A light at the intersection has been addressed in the past. Has that come into consideration again? Number 4, water use. Where is the water for the car wash to come from and the impact on our spring-fed aquifer? B. Will the water be recycled? C. Has the impact on the wastewater of the township wastewater treatment plant been addressed? Number 5, water runoff from car wash. A. Are protections in place from the car wash to protect the surrounding properties from water runoff? B. One property to the west has a large pond, which is essential to the local wildlife and a great joy when the spring peepers and other frogs come out in spring. Number 6, light pollution. A. One of the great things a residential property has is the dark night skies. B. Minimizing light pollution towards residential properties. Number 7, north view from residential properties. A. What are the plans in place to obscure the car wash from residential properties? B. Berm with trees, fence, screen wall. B1. We would prefer a natural look such as burn with trees or other suitable plantings, rather than having arborvitaes, which do not usually look natural and tend to die off and be an eyesore. A. We would prefer more coverage than the dance studio has. The property is adjacent to the east. C. We would prefer to keep any large existing trees that are on the property that stand within the 200-foot buffer zone between residential and the car wash. We appreciate the opportunity to express our concerns and look forward to the meeting on June 4th at 7 p.m. Kenneth and Teresa Muma, and I hope I'm saying that right. P.S. HMI Caliph, please excuse the previous incomplete email sent in error. Please enter that in the record. Is there any questions from the board about the two letters? And again, it's been made clear that it's not about the car wash, it's about rezoning it. We don't know what's going to go there yet. So I just want to be clear about that. Any questions? Okay, before I open up to the public, what we've done in the past is for the public, since we have a lot there, I'm going to limit it to 3 minutes. I need someone to time that for me. And then once it gets within 30 seconds, can we please let the speaker know that they're within 30 seconds? So who can time that for me?
I'll be happy to be your timer, sir.
Okay, Steve, thank you. And then I need to talk to, where'd he go? Ken. So Ken, if we need to, anybody who wants to speak, if you're on the phone, please hit *9 and raise your hand. Ken can go into some more details and he's going to handle this part of it. And please let us know who raises their hand, Ken.
Yes, Mr. Fine, we do have a couple of callers that have their hands raised. Callers, I will announce the last 4 digits of your phone number. Then we will unmute you. And again,
and
we want to make sure, I'm sorry.
We need to know their name, phone number, remind them they have 3 minutes, and at 30 seconds, we'll let them know when their time's almost up.
Yes, that's correct.
Name and address rather than name and phone number.
Sorry, name and address. Thank you.
And again, to the callers, *9 is the feature to raise your hand, and we will unmute you accordingly. Let's start out with caller 9096. I am now unmuting your phone. And again, please be reminded to state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, my name is Daryl Davis. My address is 9256 Deep Hollow Drive. I am the furthest westerly location on the map that you're looking at. So my question, based on just looking at Ken's email that he sent to you guys, if you look at question number 1 and then question number 7 together, and then go back to the fact that you just on the screen, you showed that you were cutting it up into 3 parcels. 2 at the top were proposed business, and you said the one at the bottom would also be proposed business. However, the one at the bottom, you back that all the way up to our existing fences. So if you go and look at number 7, the item number 7, it doesn't matter what business you sell to. Item number 7 and item number 1 can mention that according to the ordinance 4.11 section B, businesses should be at least 200 feet away from the residential area. So is that going to be the case? Is there going to be a 200-foot buffer? Because that is 1/3 of the section from M59 to our house.
Mr. Fine, do you want me to answer as we go, or do you want to wait till the end?
I think answer as we go. I think that would be appropriate.
Okay, the 200 feet, I believe, sir, was the special land use requirement.
Wait, John, before you go, when I say his go, why don't we let him have his 3 minutes? And at the end of his 3 minutes.
Oh, okay. I didn't know if he was done. Sorry.
I don't know if.
No, I'm done. I just want to know about the distance, because if you're talking about having, let's say you sell to an office complex. So you build that office complex literally directly behind my fence. So now instead of looking at any trees or anything like that, any of the wildlife, I'm looking at the back of a brick building. Is that going to be the case?
Okay, Paul, are you finished?
Sure.
Okay, Sean, go ahead, please.
So to answer your question, I don't know what's going to be proposed. Certainly buildings could be built on this property as long as they meet all the setback and screening requirements. And we're not at that stage yet, but I mean, walls, fences, berms, landform buffers. I mean, if you look at the map or the aerial, you'll see that properties that are particularly to the east of this all go back much closer than the car wash exhibit is shown on this plan to the residential properties. So I would say this would be no different. They can build on that back half or that southerly half, but they have to, buffer significantly between commercial and residential per the ordinance. And again, there's, 3 or 4 different appropriate applications that could be used. And by application, I mean treatment to buffer. So, but the 200-foot rule, as I mentioned when I kind of first interrupted and you were still talking, sorry about that. had to do with special land use distance requirements from residential uses. So the car wash use would be something that they're planning to build on 59 to be more than 300 feet away from the residential properties. And, they would have to meet all those requirements through the special land use process, which, would come after rezoning if successful. So I hope that kind of answers your question.
Thank you, Sean. Okay. So again, *9 to raise your hand. And Ken?
Yes, we'll take the next caller here, Mr. Fine. Last four digits are 4209. Again, please state your name and address for the record. I am unmuting you now. Go ahead, caller.
Hi, my name is Shannon Fresquez. I'm at 9240 Steep Hollow, again, directly behind the property that you're discussing. I'm not going to be nearly as eloquent as the letters or the previous caller. I'm just a resident who lives and will be affected by whatever you put in there, however you zone it. I have concerns about noise. I realize we're not supposed to talk about a car wash, but I hear car wash. I hear 25 vacuums. It's concerning. Whatever goes in there, noise is a concern, light is a concern, hours of operation are a concern. I do ask the board to please keep the residents, at the forefront of your mind when you're making these decisions, simply because, we moved in here, as one of the letters stated, under the guise that it was zoned this way. I understand things change, townships grow, et cetera. But I do ask you to just keep us in mind and the impact, because we live here. This is going to affect us every day, every night, whatever goes in there. I am still unclear, though, what Daryl just asked. Is it a 200-foot buffer or is it not a 200-foot buffer? Whatever goes in there, however you zone it, if it could be 3 buildings, 3 businesses, whatever, what will be the buffer? I do ask that I'm hearing heavy buffering, green, different terms thrown out as to what will go between us and the business. I don't know what heavy buffering means in my mind, but I know that it's different in reality sometimes. So I want to make sure that we can be as impacted as little as possible, I guess is the bottom line. So really, that's my only question about the 200-foot situation. Is it 200 feet? Is it not 200 feet? What kind of distance are we looking at?
Shannon, are you
So,
I was going to say, Shannon, are you all finished?
Yes, thank you.
John, if you want to please answer.
Sure. So Shannon, the 200-foot number is a number that I think Ken pulled out of the special land use standards for a car wash. So that would be the requirement for a car wash use. And anything that would go onto, that southerly half of the parcel that backs up to several of you homeowners who are joining tonight would have to meet whatever the use is. It would have to meet whatever the ordinance requirements would be. So when I say heavy buffering or buffering, the ordinance has different ways of achieving adequate buffering between commercial and residential uses. Sometimes it's a brick wall. Sometimes it's a berm with a privacy fence on it. Sometimes it's a berm with trees on it. Sometimes it's a berm with trees and a privacy fence on it. Sometimes it's a landform buffer, which is, I think, not many people do that because they don't have the land, but it's like 60 feet, a 60-foot strip that just gets heavily planted, but berms and walls aren't installed. So there are various options that a developer of general business or commercial zoning would have where their property abuts residential. It's just a matter of trying to determine which use is going to be adjacent and, which use. Yeah, and sorry, you can only hear me now. My power just went out, so it's a good thing I'm on the phone because, on a sunny day with no wind, I have no power. So anyway, can you guys still hear me?
Yes.
Okay. So again, I don't know if this really answers it because until we have a specific proposal and a specific plan, I can't give you a specific answer. But the 200-foot number that Ken referenced had to do just with a car wash type use, and that was a standard. in the zoning ordinance for special land use for car washes. So no, something that would have that kind of buffering requirement would probably not fit on that parcel C or that southerly part, because anything with that significant of a buffer would chew up, 2/3 of that parcel, or it would have to, omit any usage of the bottom 2/3 of that parcel because it would have to meet that screening requirement.
Thank you, Sean. Okay, Ken, do we have anybody else?
Yes, we do have another caller, Mr. Fine. Phone number, last four digits are 8013. I will unmute you now. Please, again, state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Can you repeat their last four numbers just in case?
Yeah, the phone number, last four digits are 8013. You are unmuted. Go ahead, caller.
Okay, give him a couple seconds here. Okay, let's go to the next caller.
Okay. All right, we're going to go to caller, last four digits are 6237. I will unmute your line. Please state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, this is Kenneth Mumar. Letter has been read into it already. I am at 9218 Steep Hollow Drive, White Lake, Michigan. I am, again, one of the property residential properties right behind the parcel. So initially, when we got the letters from this, it was showing as one large parcel in a red block. I actually printed off the McKenna report and I never saw it was going to be considered as subdivided into A, B, and C. So being the fact that on May 22nd, Caliber had put up a sign for a car wash there, because originally on the 21st, we were supposed to have our meeting, and it got postponed until June 2nd. So at that point, almost feeling defeated already, I started looking up, and this is why I've come up with the 200-foot buffer zone, because they've already put a sign up there they're going to build there. So my opinion is that somebody's already made a decision that it's going to go forward here. Now, my concern is if we're going with it has to be at least the 200 feet because it's a car wash. That idea that the road only goes 300 feet into the property, that is actually beyond the 200 feet property, and that would at least keep everything at that end, just like Bell Tire and the Dance Studio, Tim Hortons, and Brendel Septic on the other, down the street. It would keep it all up near the road there. We're going to hate to lose looking at the barn there. My property actually has no trees looking to the north there, so everything on that property I'm going to see. So if you look at the land use above it, I'm the one with the pool there, and I have no trees looking to the north. So having some type of buffer there and break is quite important to us. One of the questions I noticed and my number 2 question is hours operation and concern is if the Calibri, if they are approved for this, do they have hours of shutdown for the vacuums? Because if that is a proposal going forward, I prefer that they shut down at like 10 o'clock, like a lot of other businesses do, to keep sound noise down. Essentially, I would like, that parcel C is not built on at all if they're going to split it into an A, B, and C situation. Because originally, like I said, for the letters I got, I didn't see that.
30 seconds.
Caller, you have 30 seconds.
So that's where, because we object to anything if it's going to go beyond the 200 feet there. So I guess that's where my concerns are that are not being addressed.
Thank you, Ken.
Because only guessing at what they're going to do is that's not the process. If they're going to turn around and change it, I object to this change of rezoning then.
Thank you, caller.
Thank you, Ken. Sean, did you want to speak to that?
I think it might be more of a statement than a question, but they would have to meet, if this moves ahead and it gets to a point where the rezoning is approved and they have to come back for special land use, all these factors will be considered. Another public hearing will be had, Hopefully we can all be in the same room together having that discussion, but all of these things with buffering and distances and uses will be nailed down at that time. So we can't restrict him right now on a use. We're just talking about straight up zoning. Just like he doesn't leave today if this were to go ahead or the township board approves it at future meetings with any kind of approval or any kind of guarantee of any particular location of a building on this property. I don't know if that's helpful.
That is. Thank you, Sean. Ken, is there anybody else that would like to speak?
I see no other callers at this time, Mr. Fine. Again, for all the callers that are online, press *9 on your keypad, and we will selectively unmute you. I do see caller 8013 has raised their hand again. Let's give that a try. Caller, let's remind you that you need to state your name and address for the record. And I've unmuted you. Please go ahead, caller. Caller 8013, please go ahead. Okay, no response from that caller. Next caller we have is 4209. That looks like a repeat caller, Mr. Fine.
No, if they've already spoken, then unless it's somebody else from their.
Yes, caller 4209 spoke earlier. We do see caller 2471. Okay, caller 2471, we will unmute your line. Again, please state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Yes, thank you. My name is Monica Watkowski. The address is 9292 Steep Hollow Drive. My biggest concern, as the others issues that have already been discussed are concerns as well, but there's underground water there along that 59 corridor where other businesses have already been built. And as that underground water has been changed and moved, it is impacting the water levels in our backyard. And I had sent an email to Supervisor Kowal and also to Mr. O'Neill, Sean O'Neill, regarding the underground water problems. As those waters are moved or as they are drained from the commercial areas along 59, those are moving towards the residential areas in our property. So regardless of what business is approved, there, that underground water needs to be addressed and make sure that it is not impacting us homeowners who have been here for many years and are now finding ourselves in a situation where we have standing water for months on end because that they have been permitted to try to drain that underground water, that swamp water that is up there along 59. Thank you.
Thank you, Monica. Sean, did you want to address that or?
I don't. Monica was kind enough to send me some information and email, and we've begun a dialogue, as she had mentioned. And, all of those things will be looked at, when we get into eventual site planning. And I don't remember exactly where she's at in relation to this corner note. She's down maybe a couple of lots, but the groundwater issue is one that, would be looked at, along with the stormwater to make sure that any development on this property would not increase. In many cases, we've all seen at the planning commission level, applicants coming in and actually capturing water that would normally have run off-site, which was allowed to and had always run off-site, capturing it into a basin and sending it, somewhere else, like out into the M59 storm. So my hope is that development of this site and other sites that back up to some of these folks down the road that are all, planned to be commercial and have been for a number of years, will start capturing some of the water that went in their direction and will, have a beneficial impact. But Monica, I'd certainly like to follow up with you, offline about some of the things that emailed you back on to see if there's, any other issues we can kind of help you resolve.
Thank you, Sean.
Well,
I'm seeing entries for 4209 again. I'm wondering if there's another person in the household that wanted to speak.
It's your discretion, Mr. Fine.
If it's the same person, then no, but if it's somebody else in that residence, then yes. So
Okay. Caller 4209, I will unmute your line. Again, please state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
It's Shannon Fresquez. It was just me. I had another question, so skip it.
Shannon, if it's a
It's
quick,
not another person.
if it's a quick question, please go ahead.
Well, my quick question is, if we're not dealing with the fact that it's a car wash, et cetera, why is there a sign out there that says a car wash is coming?
Okay, thank you, Shannon.
Am I allowed to address that?
Danny, if you'd like, go ahead.
Yeah, so we, anytime we start pursuing a property, we put up a coming soon car wash sign, really to just let competitors know that there is a car wash operator looking in this market, and it's almost like just planting a flag. There's kind of a gentleman's agreement, I guess I would say, in a lot of the car wash industry, that, you know, if somebody is working on a property that's in a market that's in need of a car wash, a lot of the other competitors just say, okay, well, I'm not going to look there and I'm going to look elsewhere. So I wouldn't read too far into that sign. I mean, the sign is nothing more than telling our competitors that we're working on it. You know, this committee and others would determine if we're allowed to build there. So the sign is really just, it doesn't really mean anything at this point.
Thank you, Danny. I don't see anybody with their hands up. Ken, do you see anybody else?
That's correct, Mr. Fine. Actually, 8013 has raised his hand now the third time.
Let's try one more time. Let's try one more time.
All right. So caller 8013, we're going to unmute your line. Again, please state your name and address for the record. Go ahead, caller.
Uh-oh. 8013. Okay. We can't hear you. Not sure what to do other than I think that if there's no other hands raised, I'm gonna close the public.
That's correct, Mr. Fine. I see no other hands raised at this time.
Okay, so it's 8:07 and I'm gonna close the meeting to the public. Okay, and so if there's no more questions from the board, is there a motion? Anybody want to make a motion?
I think Mary,
I just have some questions generally to Greg and Sean. Just
Okay.
like broadly, what's the difference between the business zoning it has and the types of businesses and this proposed general business, just in broad terms?
Local business is a little bit more restrictive. General business opens the window to more uses, a wider variety of uses, and then creates maybe more intensive special land use options, which would be, you know, the car wash. For example, local business doesn't allow car washes as a permitted or a special land use. General business allows them as a special land use. So he has to rezone the property and then still go through another public hearing for special land use because of the fact, you know, and one caller brought up hours of operation. Those are things we're going to get into. Those are things that if we get to that point with this project, there are going to be restrictions like that placed on the site plan. Things that would potentially be, you know, would lack harmony with some of the neighbors or provide, you know, potential nuisances. So those are things that all users of drive-throughs or things like that that are generally special land uses in general business would have to adhere to. And so that's maybe a long answer to a short question, but it's basically just a wider or broader number of or type of uses.
Okay, and then the lot split, that's something that just because it's a regular parcel there, what's the process for them to get a lot split? And then I just have one question after that.
So the land divisions occur at White Lake. The land divisions occur in the assessing department. So, you know, they haven't applied for a lot split. If they were to come in and want to do a project like this, they could potentially split the parcels out. they could potentially do a commercial condominium, which is more common in a situation like this where they share in maintenance, they share in, kind of keeping the roads up, keeping the stormwater basins up, things like that. So there are a couple different options that the owner would have in the future to potentially parcel this out or create, these potential, building pads, let's say.
And that would be the same whether it was in the local business or the general business.
That's correct.
Then the last question is, I just want to confirm that we can't tell the residents how wide the buffer might be because it's specific to the type of businesses that would go in that parcel for C. So we can't say it's a 50 foot or.
Right, and I think it might have been Ken who mentioned the 200 feet. Honestly, I don't have that in front of me because I don't have, my computer keeps cutting in and out, or I would look it up for you right now. But I trust him that he's correct that it's 200 feet, but different uses don't require
200 feet and the car wash. I see where that is. I'm concerned about that parcel C and, how much of a buffer would be required closer to the home.
Right. It's really tough to say because again, there are probably 4 different options that would meet the requirements of the ordinance for just, let's say, a basic commercial use, not a special land use. Right. That they could choose to implement, but it's ultimately the planning commission's choice as to, what degree they want the applicant to go. So the applicant's given some guidelines by the zoning ordinance, given some options by the zoning ordinance, but ultimately through this process, you're going to get to determine whether or not it's adequate and whether or not, it needs to be moved a few more feet or the berm needs to be a few feet higher or they need another couple dozen trees or whatever the end solution might be. That's all something that, would be gotten to through the site plan review process.
Okay, thank you.
Mm-hmm.
Is there any other questions from the board? Okay, is there a motion? Anybody want to make a motion? Steve Anderson?
Okay. Hold on just a second. Let me grab that. I was fixing my I need to get to the communications. Hold on just a second.
I can show you on my screen.
Yeah. I'm looking. Hey, Pete, do you want to do it while I'm grabbing that other notation on it? And then I'll just.
Is that what you're looking for?
I was looking for the agenda so I can reference the parcel and everything.
Yeah, do you see it on the screen? I'm sharing it.
There it is. Okay.
Can I make it bigger?
Well, hold on. I don't see the agenda here. Hold on.
Oh. Can anybody see the agenda here?
I can see it.
Okay. Right here.
Yep.
Where is? Okay.
What are you looking for?
The agenda for the parcel. Okay, I make a motion that we go ahead and approve rezoning from local business to RC1-C for parcel number 12-23-202-006 based on the notations and the communications both from our planning support McKenna and any other documents that were part of the package, and then any additions or corrections that we needed to have during discussions as far as for Mr. O'Neill.
Steve?
Yes.
Yeah, quick question. You mentioned from LB to R1C. It's actually from LB and R1C
to general business. I'm sorry.
Okay.
I'm sorry.
Okay.
I was looking at it. You're
That
correct.
was the recommendation. Okay.
Thank you. Yeah, the motion to change it from rezoning of LB local business and R1C to GB general business for any of the other appropriate for that district. And please understand that this is only a motion for of changing of the zoning, which does not give any type of support or documentation to what is going to be on the site.
And this would be a recommendation to the township board.
That is correct. A recommendation to the township board.
I'll second that.
Okay, can we have a vote, please?
Peter Maher,
Unmute, Peter.
There you go.
Yes.
Mary Kylerlek,
Yes.
Steve Anderson,
Yes.
Mark Fine,
Yes.
Joe Seward,
Yes.
Debbie DeHart,
Yes.
Rhonda Grubb, yes.
Okay. It has been approved. Thank you, everybody. Next, it doesn't look like we have any old business. New business, we don't have any new business. Number 9, liaisons reports. Do we have any reports? Who would like to go first?
We don't have any ZBA.
No ZBA?
No.
We haven't had any parks meeting either. I believe we're shooting to have one next month.
Okay. So I think we have no reports. Okay, thank you. Planning consultants report?
I will mention something tonight. I'm breaking from my usual custom since it's not super late. I was on a call today with the Liquor Control Commission where they were describing their expedited procedures for temporary outdoor dining areas or the ability to provide alcohol in those areas. And it's something to think about. As restaurants reopen, their occupancy limits are obviously going to be at 50% of what they would normally be allowed to be, and so there will be additional space, whether it be in the parking lot or in the lawn area, that could potentially be used for outdoor dining. Outdoor dining being generally thought of as safer at this time because of the velocity of the air movement, the lower viral load outdoors. And so it's just something to keep in mind. I don't know if you all have talked about it, but it is something that a lot of communities are looking at as a way to kind of boost those businesses at this time when they're otherwise struggling. So something to think about.
Thank you, Greg.
Greg, can I? That's actually a really good topic. If I can chime in, well, I guess I'm up next anyway.
You most certainly can.
Yeah, I need to wrap this up before the locusts carry me away. It's been quite a day.
Wait, I didn't go to the director's report yet. Director's report?
Oh.
Go ahead.
Oh, sorry. Here we go. So dovetailing off of Greg's comments, we've had a couple of people who actually have outdoor seating special land uses. So it's been a little easier to say to them, yeah, you can expand that area because they've already gotten approval. And we've kind of looked at it like it's a temporary expansion of their outdoor seating. So if you remember Mojave Cantina, they're one. I think, I don't know that Leo's Coney Island has outdoor seating, but they were one who, had asked, they don't have alcohol sales, but they had asked about it. And the way we're looking at it is we're treating it as a 90-day temporary use permit. So we're going to allow them the temporary, and obviously 90 days from now, it's going to start getting cold. It's scary, sad to think about. But, for the next 90 days, it should cover them for the most part and hopefully get us to a point where their occupancy can kind of trickle back closer to normal, maybe not 100%, but, like Greg said, it kind of helps kickstart them. So, it takes a couple of months to amend zoning ordinances. It takes a couple of months to go through, special land use approval. And this is really just temporary in nature. So that's the way White Lake has addressed it. And, you know, if there's a restaurant on M59 doing business, and, you know, we can help them by letting them put a few tables out there temporarily and just, you know, get them through the summer, then we're going to do it and we're going to help them. So that's kind of the direction that we've gone with it. So other than that, we have this project now going on to the township board for their meeting later this month. The second reading of the New Hope project that you guys saw last month, their rezoning second reading will be at the township board meeting later this month. At the May meeting, the township board granted them preliminary site plan approval and moved the rezoning to, you know, the second of the two required readings. So that project is moving along. I believe in the next 2 or 3 weeks, the Trailside Meadows project on Elizabeth Lake Road will begin building their models. So they're finally to that point now after a few hiccups along the way. You know, we've been talking about zoning ordinance amendments for quite some time now, and it's been kind of in fits and starts, and now we can't really get together. And seems like it's something that's a lot easier to sift through when we're all in a room. So I haven't tried to push that along. I was hoping that, you know, maybe this month we'd be together, and that's not going to happen. So, you know, maybe July 16th, you know, we might be able to spread out in the annex. The old library building is now where we're going to, I believe, have the rest of our Planning Commission, Township Board, ZBA, Parks and Rec Committee meetings. There are a couple of huge TVs in there. The seats can be spread out so people have plenty of room to sit away from each other and be comfortable. Plenty of good access in and out of that room and in and out of that building. So when we do, you know, get back together, whenever that might be, that's where we'll be having our meetings from now on. So that's something that we'll make sure we address with future agendas when we cite the location. You know, if anybody you know, has any feedback or input on that, you know, please, you know, contact me, let me know. Then I don't know. I guess that's it for director's report at this time. The only thing I'd quickly add is I think you were all emailed a bit of information on the small business reopening toolkits. Justin is running that program. We've given out, I think we were given 94 kits. I'm going to say we've given out, you know, roughly not quite half of those, unfortunately. And, you know, so if any of you are small business owners, you know, that are still listening, or are aware of some small business owners in the township that, you know, could use these, you know, please get them, ask them to go to the township website, and Justin can be contacted through the website, and we'll try to get you a kit. All the unused kits will go back to the county for reallocation to communities that have more of a need than they had a supply. So while we may end up giving some kits back, we definitely want to get them in the hands of any business who might need them. You know, there's a no-touch thermometer, gloves, masks, hand sanitizer, some decals for social distancing that you put on the floor, things like that just help some small businesses kind of kickstart. These are all things that are hard to find, you know, or you're paying $12 for a $3 bottle of hand sanitizer or something like that. And it's free. You know, just contact Justin if at justinq@whitelaketwp.com, you know, if you need one, and he can get you registered. And we're probably only going to have those kits for another week before they have to go back. So please try to do so quickly. So that's all I have at this point.
Mr. O'Neill, please, I know you said it. I just want to be sure that you restated that it is free. They are free.
It is free. And if you email Justin at justinq@whitelaketwp.com or give him a call at 248-698-3300, extension 177, he'll be able to get you one in the next week.
I picked up mine today from Waterford, and it's a pretty decent thermometer. I've purchased 6 thermometers in the last 3 months, and it's a good one. Yeah.
Yeah. They're really hard to come by, and they're pretty expensive. The no-touch ones are pretty expensive. I know the county put a value of, I think, somewhere around $400 on the entire kit, and it's in a nice plastic tote. and it's free. I mean, the most important thing is it's free and it has some stuff that businesses could use. So let us know.
I saw someone ask about those kits because they were in the paper. They were, the county executive published about the kits. And then I can't remember where I saw someone asking, saying they couldn't find those kits. Is it on White Lake's Facebook page? Could it be on the White Lake sign that they have a small business kit to let
Yeah,
people know?
It's on White Lake's Facebook page, the park's Facebook page, the police and fire Facebook page. The library may have shared it as well. I don't know. I know they got a kit, and it's on our township website. Heck, I think the police chief was even driving kits around to people who had signed up today. So you might even get delivery. And I'll tell you, Debbie, we kind of found out about it in short order. I think we found out that we were getting these kits about this time last week. We found out roughly when we were getting them because they became available very quickly at the county. And, the county's doing a really good job in kind of uncharted territories trying to figure all this out. And they're kind of drinking this through a fire hose. So it's all of this rollout hasn't been completely perfect, but for what they've done in the time frame they've done it, I have to give them some credit. The folks at Oakland County Planning and Economic Development are the ones who are spearheading this and working with the communities. And you can go to their website as well and find a link. But I just appreciate the resources. That's the same group that was giving these small business, or I should say the business grants out for those of you who may have gotten one or may have been aware of someone who has gotten one to kind of help some of these businesses along. So we're just hoping that things start safely opening and we don't have any setbacks and business can return to, fairly normal status in fairly short order. Though, again, nobody knows what to expect.
No, I agree. I think the county's done a good job.
They have. This is a tough situation, and everybody has different feelings on it. And but I think everybody agrees it's been a tough spot. So.
On another note, are they moving forward? What is going on with the condos at the corner of Cooley and Union Lake Road, or the apartments?
At Cooley and Union?
Yes.
Yeah, they're slowly moving ahead. I think their crews only started work back, a few weeks ago. I know it's moving a lot slower than they had hoped. I don't want to get too far into the weeds, but I know I talked a few months ago, probably in March at this point, with the owner, and they had ordered all their windows from a European window company, and they were being manufactured. I don't remember if it was Italy or Germany. And with everything that kind of hit there first, it shut everything down before things shut down here. And so their supply chain for their building has been affected by this pretty significantly. And I feel I'm joking about my power going out and the locusts carrying me away today. This project has had lots of pitfalls and lots of unforeseen things happen on it. And I hope they get a different stretch of luck because, they could certainly use it. So, I do know that they lost crews because of this. They can't get supplies they need to advance their building along. So, that's part of the reason for the holdup.
Okay, thanks.
Hey, Sean, is that all for the director's report?
I can keep talking all night if you guys want. I don't know what your plans are later, but
That's all for the director's report.
I can't see you nodding and making. I can't see you nodding or making faces at me because I'm just sitting here on my phone. So,
Steve, are you going to say something?
Did you talk about the Pontiac Lake planning thing on June 11th?
Oh, thank you, Mary. I think that was emailed out too.
We did email that out. Yeah.
I like that I can see how to spell Justin's last name.
Right.
I can't.
Yeah, he was like 12 before he learned how to spell it.
Yeah.
I'm going to butcher Justin Guagliata.
Quagliata, but you can just go by Justin Q or Q. You don't have to say the last name. I don't expect anyone to.
Okay, Mr. Q.
We just call him Q. Yeah.
One of the things, Sean, when you were mentioning about the the apartments on Cooley and Union Lake Road, I did notice that they had additional signage up there was talking about reservations for December. So I'm hoping that is going to come to fruition since they're going to start trying to lease those properties out or those apartments out.
Yeah, I hope you're right, Steve. They got a lot of work to do if they're going to be moving people in December. You know, it's not for me to say whether they'll get there or not. I'm pulling for them. Hopefully, you know, in the next 6 months they can make significant headway, but they've got a lot of work to still do.
Did they give you any indication, Sean, that they would do it in a phase situation, meaning that if you know the certain different sections of the apartments rather than opening it up completely?
I think there had been some discussion about that. I don't know don't know where that stands. I'd have to talk to Nick Spencer, the building official, to see, you know, if he's heard any more on that. And, you know, that's a logistical issue. You know, there are issues with fire suppression, things like that. I really can't say for certain.
Okay. Is that all for the director's report?
Yes.
Okay, thank you. For communications, our next meeting dates, June 18th, 2020, and then July 2nd, 2020. Is there any other business? If not, do I have a motion for adjournment?
I move to adjourn this meeting.
I have a second?
Support.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Good night, everybody.
Good night.
Good night, folks.
Good night, everybody. Thank you.
Hope to see you soon.
Good night. Thanks. Thank you, Ken.
Thank you. I just have to let you two wind down for just a moment here.
Yes, sir.